We do, there's not an agenda for the budget session, is there? There's not?
So
Okay.
it's gonna be a.
There is, it's on the
I can
printout.
kind of,
That's all right, but I don't have to do any.
yeah, if
There's
you
no
want, I can
citizens.
guide unless you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just a couple things, we wrap up with the budget tonight. The packet I gave you is, the cover sheet just gives you the changes from the previous work session, there wasn't a whole lot. So the first thing you'll see is the legislative line, we added 1,800 to conventions and meetings for, MML, just for council members to ensure we have enough funds. For the health insurance line in all 5 departments, these final numbers have came in, and so they have been added to the budget. The same with the HRA deductible that we have, they've been added in as well. And the final change in the operating budget is just the cost allocation transfer. The health insurance is part of that, so when those adjusted, that adjusted as well.
You said added in for health insurance, but actually was
Most
a
of them.
reduction.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
And so, I added a capital sheet that Sandy had discussed that showed the grant-funded, things. And I also have printed the 5-year because there was a couple formulas that, the department had not fully had. So I kept saying, why is this not matching? It was a formula. So I've printed the new capital sheet plus the 5-year again. So those are the key changes. Crystal, if you want, can talk about health insurance. I think the final increase, Crystal, is what,
2.8%, but we're also getting, because when I did the calculations for cost share and everything, it actually was a little bit less, which was nice, but that's because we're getting they calculated a credit for like it's a rebate that Cigna is giving for their prescription fees. So they just credited now with that intent of how it's going to be applied in the next fiscal year. So.
All right, so well, let me just tell you, the summary sheets are right after the cover sheet. So the general fund is in the positive, 117,000, all inclusive of all changes. The enterprise fund is in the positive, 29,629. Do you feel a need to go through each department again, or are we comfortable with the budget as is and move forward to talk about the rates of property tax, public utility tax, and such?
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't think
An excellent body of
there
work.
was no
Thank you so
major
much
outstanding
for
items.
what you and all of y'all have contributed to this. Thank you so much.
Truly.
We try to meet as much as we can beforehand so that we're answering. All right, so first and foremost, I'll let us end with property tax since that may have some discussion. Public utility tax, we are currently at $13 per hundred of assessed value on the 4 companies we charge. There have been no issues, no fight back. The bills have been paid every year. Are we comfortable sticking with the $13?
I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, are we good with the 5% allocation transfer from general to enterprise fund to cover the cost, those getting paid under general that are doing enterprise fund position or work?
So that adds cost to enterprise and reduces costs in general fund.
Yes.
And last year we did no.
Last year we did 0,
Okay.
and that was only because enterprise wouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah. This year we tried to do at least 5% to cover those, we have a couple positions that's what they do mostly, but they're admin, so they're paid
So-
under.
So can I clarify, so the transfer you're speaking to,
That's the 119,743.
right, that's going into.
Yeah.
So this is a revenue to enterprise, right?
It's
Help
it's reduced, yeah,
Cost to enterprise
cost,
and a contra cost for general fund.
yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's actually adding expense to enterprise, not
enterprise
the
side.
other way.
Enterprise fund is being charged
Staff
for
time.
staff time that's in the general fund.
Oh, right.
The general fund is
I
doing
remember
work for
footnotes
the
now,
enterprise
or
fund.
the notes from before, yeah, okay, so it's that part.
So like
Got
in the,
it.
I'll just give you an example, in the finance department, the person doing the utility bills, she's paid under general fund money, but a lot of her work is. So that's where we try to account for that.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, so we did, yeah, I guess we're okay with the new health insurance, so the final thing we really need to discuss is the property tax rate as current. And if you want any discussion, I know Dan had brought up, so I don't know if you guys want to discuss the current rate that we have, which is 53.5 cents per hundred of assessed value.
I don't feel like we're in a position to lower the property taxes. I think we've been able to pay down debt and do a lot of capital improvements and do a lot of things as a result of the ARPA money. And with that gone, I wish it was the time. I mean, I certainly personally wish my tax bill could go down, but I just don't think it's the time. I don't think we have sufficient resources to justify.
Yeah, and I did a little more research as I was getting some information from Karen, just to kind of look at the balance sheet some, because when you're doing a budget, you're really focused on the operations, right? But you really kind of need to look at your balance sheet as well. So, like current cash right now between general fund and endowment, $7.6 million of cash. It's not a ton. I mean, in general, that's not a ton.
It's 2 years.
But some of it's ARPA, right?
Yeah, but there could be other expenses that could happen, or capital expenses. So in general, it's still not in total.
And we still don't know how we're gonna fund half of a plant, or more than half of a water plant.
So, and then the debt's like 9.6.
Yeah.
So total debt. So cash is 7.6, debt's 9.6. So as far as from that perspective. And so on the enterprise fund, so the budget, again, my first budget, so excuse me. So on the enterprise, so it had a loss in FY25 as far as not covering all the costs. So the budget, am I reading this correctly, as far as for the enterprise budget, is there's a transfer of 30,000. So
Correct.
you're showing there's a little bit of excess associated with it.
Should we take in all the expected revenue? And the expenses don't, yes.
Right.
It's a very small cushion for the enterprise.
Right. So last year there was a loss of, like I said, it was like, when I was looking back at $264,000.
Right.
Because I was thinking the enterprise fund didn't really cover all of its costs most years. Is that an
And
accurate
that's
statement?
accurate.
Okay.
The allocation has really covered,
Right.
which we've
helping
now
to
tried to back away from.
Right, that
Yeah.
allocation from general fund. So, so those are kind of things.
So the
where-
EDU allocation
Yes.
fees you're saying, so
Yeah.
we've like a little bit robbed Peter to pay Paul here by when we get
Yeah.
allocation fees for EDU from people developing properties.
Right.
We've been using it to make the enterprise fund whole, which we now don't do. They now sit in a separate allocations
Right.
account.
On the balance sheet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funding capital, not operations in the future.
Right, because it
Right.
should, in theory, stack up to pay for the next
You
plan.
should build that,
Yes.
right.
20 years from now.
For your infrastructure, exactly. So that's where, again, for the wastewater treatment plant, it's the same, because right now with the latest presentation that was done, I guess, 2 months ago by the staff, we're $20 million in a
Yeah.
shortfall. And I think that's gonna be like best case.
Yeah, oh
Because
yeah.
given everything that's going on in our economy today, costs are gonna be more by the time you start putting, shovels in the ground to do that. There's no question in my mind. You're gonna have a larger gap and have to go after funding. Well, however that funding looks, it's gonna be higher.
We're gonna beg everybody,
Oh, I know, yes, as far as we're gonna try from grants and I know,
Yeah,
we're gonna
but-
like maximize what we can get, but the environment is not of such that's, it's gonna give you much on that end. Again, we need to try everything we can. So I just think, and then with the economy and what's happening, I just don't think it's prudent. I just really don't think it's prudent to do that. I think it's somewhat short-sighted because we don't know what's in front of us. And we know some things that are in front of us, and I think there's just, cash should be built up for things that need to be done. Because like infrastructure, ARPA has paid for infrastructure. We haven't taken it off the balance sheet. That's come from ARPA. So at some point, you've got to pay that related to cash associated with projects.
And we have a lot of streets that were built around the same time that are gonna start to fail around the same, I just think
Yeah. So that's
it's
kind
gonna be
of
a
my
lot
position.
in the next few years.
Whole lot.
Okay, so if we don't reduce taxes, then the money goes into the fund balance. So what is the balance of the fund balance?
It is what Sandy had said, the current bank balance is now is between the two funds. General fund has a little over 2 million, Sandy, and
Yeah, general's 2.6 cash. Is that your question though, Dan?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I
2
just wanna
million,
make
yeah,
sure that-
This is another 17 to that.
right.
So it's 2.7 and the enterprise is 4.9, so a total of 7.6 million cash. Balance sheet.
And the plan is to use it for capital expenses? Is
Or
that-
whatever's needed for. I
You're
mean,
probably going to need it for capital expenses. I think we've
Oh.
been, if there's any silver lining to COVID, we've been lucky to have a mountain of money to use from ARPA to cover capital expenses that we would not have otherwise had at all. We certainly couldn't have paid down the debt at the fast clip that we have. I just think the economic situation we're currently in as a country, that personal opinion is only gonna get worse, at least in the short term. I think when relief comes, it will be nothing like 2010 and certainly nothing like 2020. I don't think
Right,
I don't
yeah.
think the town is looking at facing some sort of massive relief from whatever hell is unleashed on the economy over the next several months.
If I may say a few things.
Absolutely.
If you look at the bottom of their summary page, we have some bonds at 2.54% and some at 3.61%. I think any of us here would borrow money at those rates at the drop of a hat. So paying that off does not make any sense.
Right,
Because the
no.
next time we borrow money, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
and
at
I'm
a
not
much higher
advocating
rate,
for
right?
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And the back two has the
It-
same,
oh,
there's 3 and 2,
I did-
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, I
didn't see
think
the
we've
back.
made a substantial difference. I mean, we were in a place where we could not borrow money.
Yeah. Last time I checked with Charlie Day, yeah, we were in a position, 1.5 to 2 million. Now, that was when we had 16 million, so we may be in a better place now, but certainly not what we would need to finish
Fund the plan
Yeah.
or do other things.
Yeah.
So I'm not advocating, I mean, I think we've kind of hit that turning point where we've paid down as much of the debt as we could, given the amount of interest we were able to rake in and have continued to rake in a little bit off of ARPA. But we're at the point where things are turning kind of the other way and we need to get really conservative about our estimates and our spending.
And I
All
know
right,
our,
my second point here, concern for the enterprise fund is quite valid. You know, I wonder if maybe we should stay at 0% for the cost transfer again, because the general fund has got huge reserves if something untoward should happen, and the enterprise fund can bank that in anticipation of the big capital expense.
Didn't the audit, wasn't there an audit reason for doing some transfer, or am I misremembering?
it wasn't a requirement, it was like, if there's, you should be, but it's not a nick on us. I will tell you, if you reduce it to 0, the general fund will be in the hole 2,000. No, it's not a lot, but it's 2,000 in the hole, so
Great.
about 119 for every 5%. And my suggestion too is, and I hate this conversation, I hate having it, but I think we need to look at utility rates again. We haven't had the study done since 2017. We did some of the changes, but not all. And so Jim and I have talked a little bit about that. We did put money in the budget this year, which we didn't use based on getting out of that problem system that we had. So, there is some room in the capital to do something like that. So I do think we'll have to be looking at them in the near future, just to cover the cost. The cost now and the new plan, I think, is gonna cost more funds.
Just the
know,
technology alone,
yes,
electricity and all that, yeah.
all that, so.
The rates are a touchy subject. We all got our water bill this
Yeah.
week. So that's a
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, got my
That's
water bill at the same time that I had a leaking faucet leaking 4 gallons an hour for some, but thankfully to our new system, it was caught pretty quickly.
There you go.
Love it.
But still, 4 gallons an hour, shoo, that adds up.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Everybody, please go on Neptune portal, the
Yeah, no, I
instructions.
mean, seriously, I can't even imagine. Like, I cannot even imagine, one, how flooded my yard would be. It was our outside faucet leaking 4 gallons an hour.
That happened to me several months ago. It was a toilet that was leaking.
Yeah. And like now I get the emails if we go over, I don't even want to say how many gallons would alarm me, but if we go over an alarmingly high number, then I know it's a bad situation.
The notifications are great, and you can go
Yeah.
on our website and get the directions. Sign up, everybody, please. We're trying to, it's, an inexpensive cost for us to help save water bill, for somebody having to wait 3 months to see if they have a leak.
Yeah.
As opposed to getting a notification.
Yeah.
So my third point, the constant yield calculation that we all saw, 50.22 cents. So constant yield means for the new appraised value of everybody, 50.22 cents will generate the same amount of revenue we had last year. So if we're at 53 and a half, that's 3.25 cents more than what we would need for last year's spending, to match last year's spending.
The revenue
And it's-
increase.
It's like $72,000 a penny?
Yep, so 255,000 increase in property tax revenue at 53.5 cents, correct, yep.
Over this
Last
past year.
year's, yes.
So if we legitimately need to spend $250,000 more this year than last year, that's cool, but it's just worth reflecting on that what this means is, this year's budget has an extra $250,000 of expenditures that last year's didn't have.
And if you look at nothing else, other than the addition of the zoning administrator and the code enforcement, that's that right there. And I think,
And the positions in the streets department, the part-time, yeah.
Got it?
I
Yeah.
think that was a lot of,
Yeah,
yeah.
all right,
Yeah, and that's a great point to kind of understand why.
Yes.
What's the why?
Yep.
Right?
and I
right.
think the services that will bring justify, I mean, to me, justify.
As I say, I'm not advocating
No, I
for
know.
static. It's a matter of understanding and explaining and everybody recognizing what that,
Right.
what constant yield means and why we're not matching it. So it's more than mission creep, it's actually adding services that serve the community.
Right, and I appreciate looking at it that way. I think part of it too is our ability to afford some of these things comes down to the health insurance costs and the town staff being really, really good stewards of the money that we do budget. And so we can contemplate things like adding a zoning administrator, which I think will be hugely helpful to the town without an increase in taxes, that we can absorb that with the current tax rate.
I would love to either knock a penny off our taxes, which would take our surplus down to about 40,000 and get us closer to constant yield, or I would like to take the cost transfer to zero and beef up the reserves for, but that means we've got to find $2,000 for a balanced budget.
Yeah, to present you with one, yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll, yeah.
That shouldn't be hard.
So,
I think we can take two grand off fireworks.
Dang, Jay. Sorry, Jay.
No inflatable rides.
I will be the Grinch who stole July 4th. And yeah, I mean, I would be more in favor of the latter, of the changing the cost transfer than lowering the taxes.
What if we did like maybe not zero, but a
Fraction of
1%?
1%.
I'm just trying to keep
Yeah.
general
Cover the
fund in the
percentages,
positive
yeah.
without,
can you find $2,000 here in a minute? couple
I'm
minutes?
sure we can, anybody have,
We can find $2,000.
yeah, we can absolutely.
Chief, I'm sorry about your stickers and bubbles, but
But at least he got you enough fireworks.
And I want to put you on the spot, Chief.
Sacrifice for
but
the fireworks, yeah.
Chief and I had talked about his K-9 line. When I increased it by 5,000, it was only supposed to go to 5,000. So did you want to?
not to put you on the spot, but could you write us a check for $2,000, Chief? That's what we're asking.
If I could keep the bubbles and the frisbees. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're all here to cooperate and make it work. So, I mean, we can all find that minimal amount
Yeah,
of money.
we can all find 2,000.
So
All right, I move to approve the budget with those two changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Chief.
So with that, I will say, unless you guys feel the need, we will not need a work session next week. When we start to have the budget hearing, I will ensure you have the final copies with these updates to the 0% and us finding the $2,000.
And a break-even general fund.
Correct. Yeah, is that okay?
Yes.
That is perfect.
So the final piece for you guys today is Main Street. Carol has her information so that she could pass out everything and go over that with you guys. All hail, the budget is complete.
Great work, seriously, great work.
Thank
And
you.
you two and
Yeah.
all of you, just most smooth budget process in my,
It was great.
yeah.
Ms.
I
Luffman,
mean, maybe it's because I understand it more
Yes.
than you too.
yeah, real quick,
$2,119 is what we have to find.
not because I want to renege on what we just went through, but ultimately, I was looking at a greater expense possibly this year, and speaking with HR, the FMLI that we
The state paid family medical leave that we have
we
budgeted.
already put in the budget, but we won't have to utilize.
Right.
So that puts
Because
us in the,
legislation
That pulls
is
a
trying
lot
to
more.
delay that 18 months.
And it passed?
Not yet.
So that's spread across
But
all
it's-
departments?
yes.
Yes.
Right,
Well, that can just be a cushion then.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's initially what
We just kept it in there because it hasn't
Because we'll
passed
wait
yet.
and see what
We're
happens.
waiting
And we
to
won't
see
know, we
April
won't know
7th.
before we strike our budget
Right.
probably.
was something to look
Because just because it
But it
passes
is
doesn't mean it
something.
gets signed and.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll leave it for now. We'll find 2,119,
Okay.
892. All right, I already found it, so I will have you Everybody thank
Look at Gay's like, what?
Everybody
What?
thank-
What just happened?
Yeah,
Everybody
we will be
thank-
talking to get my minutes right, because I just
No,
lost.
so everybody thank Carolyn. We will remove $2,119 from A92 7440 contract services. Remove the 5% to 0, and that will be a balanced budget on both sides. And that's what we'll present
A balanced budget on the
on the general
fund,
side.
Yeah.
And the enterprise will have a surplus.
A larger surplus.
Right, yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay.
Have some 150,000 surplus.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that, we'll put 120,000 in there
Yep.
with the 30, so, yep.
All right, Carol.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello. I appreciate all of this very extensive historical info going way
Well,
back.
I got it. So, in your packets, the first two clipped items are the balance sheets that you got in your email. And the last is, I had an anticipated budget for this year, and I thought it'd be helpful if I drilled down how I established those numbers.
Okay.
So, looking at,
I think that's the last.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the
last
one, yeah.
packet. That's in your,
so I have, you know, our revenue and our expenses, and then if we look at anticipated revenue, so I'm adding in one additional sponsor. I kept revenue very strategically flat. We don't know what's going to happen, and I thought, keep it conservative and go from there. So the last 2 years, we've been bringing in $58.50 in sponsorships, so I thought, go conservative, just add one more, hoping we'll get additional.
You know you're getting one more. I
Oh,
found
I
you
know.
one more.
Well, I know I'm getting two more because I've been getting calls all week, so I know
Good.
it's coming. So with the vendor fees, I just added in, assuming a few more vendors. We have both an early bird and a regular fee, so I just based everything on the early bird.
I think the change in weekend might really help too,
Yeah.
because less competition.
Yes, yes.
And actually Godfrey's that has usually had a big event the same day as ours moved theirs also a week later.
Oh, cool.
So there's
Yeah.
just less, I think, less
Everybody's
local
thinking
competition.
about it. Regarding the percentage of the tasting pass sales that we get, I based it on 600 tasting passes, but in two different buckets because we have our VIP experience this year. So when you look at the numbers of our tasting passes, last year was an anomaly. I mean, typically we rove around 700. So again, being very conservative, I went with, 570 coming in at $25. Our fees for the regular tasting pass have also gone up this year by $5. So again, a lot of people typically will get 150 in advance, but the rest day of, and the day of fee is going to be $30. So again, keeping it very conservative. So then, if we look at expenses,
If I could interrupt for a second.
Sure.
So your second page compares this past year to this year?
correct,
For revenue. So that's the comparison of revenue.
correct.
There you go. Okay.
Then I'm doing the same thing on expenses, so you have that.
And while 2025 adds up to 10,430, I can't do the math in my head on 2024. Off the top of your head without me able to get off the calculator. It's
Some
all right.
amount less than
Don't-
that.
It's less. Got it. We'll go with that.
It's like 1650 less.
Okay,
Ish.
well done.
So if we look at our expenses, again, try and keep everything as flat as possible. And then I looked at what we can do without and trim this as much as possible so that we still get a very quality event, but nothing is, there is no extra. So things, our MC fee actually increased a little bit here on that first line, but that's because she's going to be doing a guided tasting and a food pairing at the VIP experience. So she increased our prices. But this production fee includes our sound technician, our music, and the MC. Billboard stays flat, and we went in with rentals. I was able to save some additional money for delivery fees, and we are only going to go with the 3 tasting tents this year. No cocktail tables, no linens. We'll use the town's picnic tables.
The town's picnic tables are great,
Yeah.
but they need some love. 2 of them are broken.
I think that
They might have, I told them at the end of the first Friday season
I
last
think
year.
that they have been fixing
Cool.
them
Yeah.
up. I think Gary said that at our last department head meeting. I think they have been working on the picnic tables.
Cool.
Yeah, I will double check that, but yeah.
I had a volunteer meeting last night, and one of our volunteers offered to make linen-fitted sheets for our tablecloths for the tables, and I'm like, okay. So we're going to pretty it up. Banner, I just increased that by a little, things just increased, so I thought just pad that a little bit.
Is that what you put at the edge of town?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So it's just, and then the billboard, sorry, where's the billboard?
The billboard is at 404 and 50, so really nice beach traffic,
Yeah.
right as they're
Okay, I
coming
know
off,
where it is.
it's great.
Okay.
And we get that by virtue of county tourism, and they pick up the monthly fee. We're just paying for the installation and the artwork. Yeah, it's a great deal.
Great.
And our advertising, I'm anticipating going up simply because we're going to have to do a little bit extra, I think. We have a new date and a new name, and
And we're trying to make up a loss of like 300 tasting passes last year, so I think
Sure.
more advertising makes
Yeah.
sense.
Can you elaborate a little more about how you do that?
sure.
Advertising, just-
Broken way down in there.
Yeah.
Without getting here.
And then the corporate sponsor posters, about the same, and then our sponsorship to the partner, because we're going to need to owe them more because we're going to get more tasting passes. So I've increased my, what we pay them. So we do a 15% exchange. They give us 15% of the gate, and I give them 15% of the corporate sponsors. So that's a good number to go up because that means we're going to raise more money. So what we do with the advertising, so on that last sheet,
Yep, I see that, yep. I didn't
yeah,
see
we're
that before.
comparing what we've done. And the What's Up Media campaign is all digital. It's with whatsup.com. We did a great sponsored post last year on their page where we had our video, and the rest are digital ads. The List Are You On It? That is run by Nikki Nellis, who is an influencer in DC. She does a lot of restaurant and a lot of event stuff, so she has really, really good following. We did a very small program with her last year, and I think considering that we have the data, we're bringing in DC, let's see if we just add a smidge more and get some more out of that. We used WCEI for a bonus pop-up program last year when we were giving away money for our Shop Centerville MDE gift cards. And I did a campaign where we did 30-second commercials and 2 interviews. So that was really a nice spot. We could bring sponsors on, we can bring some of our artisans. So that's effective. I added in a few more spots than that we did with the pop-ups. And then we update our video every year, and again, we'll probably use that mostly for the sponsored post for What's Up Media. We do a thank you ad, and whatever's left over, I'll put in boosted posts.
Awesome.
Another thing, the spy, do you use the spy at all as far as
Sure.
events coming?
Yeah,
Is
so
it
that's
not-
our earned media. So I'll send things to them. So we'll do a press release. Last year, I shared with them all the ads that we created for What's Up, so they used a
All
lot
right,
of
so
that.
they get it, okay, great.
Yeah, we found during the festival trains, we actually polled people, asked where they heard about the show. Okay, very few heard about it on the radio, but most of them heard about it on Facebook. We paid like $200 or something just to run Facebook ads. for that. But that's only for a 2-week period, and maybe we need to spend more, but we just gave up on radio because it really wasn't paying off.
It has worked for us.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think part of it is they get the 30-second commercials, but then they hear someone talk about it. And I think it's that personal, whenever you can get someone to tell that story, it ends up being a little bit more effective for some folks. What I like about CEI is if a business allows a radio to be on during the day, it's usually that radio. And we know we're drawing from Talbot, so that helps us as well. The other thing that we are focused on is to get that earned media. I mean, we know we have the DC market and some other markets. We're going to pitch more stories, try to see if we can get a morning piece on WBOC. So we're going to focus a little bit more on that. So we'll leverage the paid advertising with getting some more free publicity.
Great.
Is it worth looking to marketing towards the east, Delaware, since they don't have to deal with the Bay Bridge to come enjoy the day here?
Yeah, I had a marketing meeting this morning at 9, and we were talking about maybe that Delaware Middletown area. So, yeah, we are looking at that. Yep. Anybody have any questions?
None from me.
It's good.
All right.
And I guess our next meeting, we'll talk about the name. Or do you want to cover that now?
I think we should do that in public meeting.
Okay, cool.
I mean, this is public, but not the same.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Anything else on the budget session front?
I have nothing.
Okay. And do we need a motion to adjourn the budget session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned, and we will shortly go into closed session. Now convene this April 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Centreville Town Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, first up, council, is agenda review. You all have the agenda in front of you. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay,
Yeah, I got one.
to the agenda?
Oh, no.
Minutes, you got minutes
Minutes.
issues.
Minutes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
next up, we
sorry.
have review of the minutes from past meetings. In your packets, you have March 13th and 20th budget meetings and March 20th regular meeting minutes. I know there's at least one change. Mr. Keel?
Yeah, where is that?
It's on page 4.
This is the March 13th budget work session.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I see it, under capital and general fund.
I said I'm gonna start doing a search and replace.
Yep, Jeff's name spelled wrong. We'll get that fixed. Is there anything
And she does it on purpose. Thank you.
else? Okay, hearing none, we can do a motion to approve all these at once.
Make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
So,
All in favor?
Beat me to it.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next up, I'll have to read a closed session statement. Closed session announcement regarding a town council closed session on April 3rd, 2025. The town council met in closed session on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 at 6:07 PM to discuss personnel and seek counsel on a legal matter in accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act. 5 members of the town council voted to close the session. The authority to close the session is found in Section 305 of the General Provisions article. The town council discussed the following topics. Personnel, we discussed boards and commissions, as well as a matter involving an employee. We also consulted with counsel on a legal matter. No actions were taken. The following members and staff were present: Ashley H. Kaiser, President; Jeffrey D. Keel, Vice President; Daniel B. Worth, Jim A. Beecham, and Sandra Lee Huffer, members; Sharon Van Emberg, Town Attorney; Carolyn Brinkley, Town Manager; Gay Adams, Town Clerk; and for part, Karen Leffman, Finance Officer; Ashley Russ, and Chief Rob Hobbs. The meeting adjourned at 6:50 PM. All right, next up, we have our citizens forum. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council? Yep, come on up. It's open mic night at the Centreville Town Council. Can you hand this again?
Thank you. I'm Tim McCluskey. I live here in Centreville. I wanted to speak tonight on Ordinance 01-2025. At minute 44 of the March 20th council meeting, Councilman Beecham stated that both Northbrook and Symphony Village had HOAs that prohibited trailers parked on the street. The HOA may have that restriction. However, the HOA cannot prohibit something that they don't own or control. All the streets in Symphony Village and Northbrook are owned by the town and not subject to HOA rules. Don't pass an ordinance based on this false information. HOA rules do prohibit trailers on private property, so this ordinance, as revised, will effectively prohibit attached trailers in these two communities, and anyone who owns a boat or trailer up there will now have to bear the expense of paying for storage. Mr. Beecham, you stated that one of the biggest things that you got out of the robust public testimony was the burden on a citizen for compliance. The ordinance, as it has been revised, will now add a huge burden to any property owner who lives within an HOA that prohibits parking a trailer on private property. Private storage can be over $1,000 a year. That's a huge burden. At the last meeting, there were 3 main points discussed, and consensus was to modify the ordinance to reflect this. At minute 43, remove the requirement to install a fence or landscaping to conceal a trailer, which was remove 158.3B. At minute 59, add the words "on a public right-of-way or private property" to section 158.3D. And then minute 58 was allow attached boat trailers on town streets from April through October. Imagine my surprise when I reviewed the updated ordinance on Tuesday and didn't see that third part added. The council's consensus was pretty clear that it was to be included in the updated draft, but it wasn't included. Why was that? I know the Open Meetings Act considers email and text exchanges by a quorum of the public body that have the characteristics of a public meeting to be deemed a meeting and subject to the Open Meetings Act. Was this change, which was approved at consensus at the last meeting, removed during an email meeting, or was there a mistake in revising the ordinance? Either way, I think you owe it to the public to provide an updated copy with the exact language discussed at the last meeting before voting on it. These days, there's a lot of politicians that are making decisions on incorrect or false information. Don't do that here. I recommend that you push tonight's consideration off until you get the facts straight, until you allow the public to see a copy of the ordinance, including all the language mentioned during your last meeting, and hold your debate in public. And if there was a violation of the Open Meetings Act, you should report that to the Open Meetings Act Board. Let's get it right before you consider this ordinance. In addition, the revised text of this ordinance doesn't make sense as presented. Section 158-3 goes from A to C to D, etc. Is it that hard to have a clean and correct copy for the public to review before you vote on it? Over and over as I listen to these meetings, if the main concerns stated by the council members are campers. If that's the issue, it's simple enough to write an ordinance that prohibits campers. Multiple council members have stated that utility trailers and boats are not the problem. We've invested millions of dollars into our waterfront, something that Galena doesn't have, by the way, and you should be encouraging the residents of Centreville to have boats instead of taxing and penalizing them. Why are you doing this? Why does it feel that you were trying to sneak something in? Does it hurt to table this for up to 60 days more to get it right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other citizens that wish to address the council? Okay, next up, we have an appearance from Cadet Second Lieutenant Claire Hirsch, and so we'll go ahead and I'll come down there and read it. Read this. Whereas since Civil Air Patrol's formation during the early days of World War II, this vigilant organization of citizen airmen has been committed to mobilize the nation's civilian aviation resources for national service, and whereas as a total force partner and auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force, its more than 64,000 members selflessly devote their time, energy, and expertise toward the well-being of their communities, while also promoting aviation and related fields through aerospace STEM education and helping shape future leaders through CAP's cadet program. And whereas CAP's Brigadier General Billy Mitchell Award honors a fearless pilot whose patriotism, foresight, and tenacity surpassed the ridicule he faced. And whereas the Mitchell Award is a significant milestone in CAP's cadet program, recognizing sustained excellence in all 4 areas of cadet life: leadership, aerospace, fitness, and character. And whereas cadets receiving the Mitchell Award must have passed comprehensive examinations on leadership and aerospace topics and have completed a week-long encampment immersing themselves in a challenging core values and STEM environment. And whereas only 15% of cadets in CAP's cadet program have received this award, and Cadet Second Lieutenant Claire Avery Hirsch is the 77,891st recipient since its establishment in 1964. And whereas Claire Hirsch is a resident of the town of Centreville, Maryland, and now therefore, we, the Town Council of Centreville, do hereby recognize Cadet Second Lieutenant Claire Hirsch for this significant achievement, which reflects great credit upon herself, her family, and our historic town. In witness whereof, the Town Council of Centreville has hereunto subscribed their names this 3rd day of April, 2025. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. That's incredible. Yes. And let's have yeah, that's wild. Get this out of the way and we'll do. Yeah. Yeah, hop on in the picture also. Yeah, parents too. They all here. Let's all. Yeah, get in, parents too. Seriously.
We got 2 rows here, all right?
Go around me. All right. All right. Next up, council, we have old business, and the first thing is ordinance 1-2025. So, just want to start by saying I've not been a part of any conversation since our last meeting about this at all.
No, as much fun as it might be to think there's conspiracy theory going on in inappropriate meetings, there haven't been. There has been some miscommunication on the text to be incorporated, and so I think we should not move on what we have presented here
Agreed.
tonight. We need to do some additional cleanup based on what we had spoken about at our last meeting. So
I agree.
I think we have it under a table up to 60 days, so we're still within
Yes.
that window.
Right.
So I'll work with Sharon to try to get what we
Yeah.
kind of agreed to, and I had suggested to her that what we may want to do is start with the ordinance as presented during the public hearing, and then address each amendment individually, just for transparency on how the amendments might work, and talk
Great.
through each of them separately instead of having a conglomeration.
Yep.
So we'll discuss
make
it
sense?
again on the 17th.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, next up is ordinance 3-2025, and this is the CETA structure, which we need to have a public hearing, and that's been scheduled for next meeting. So we'll have a public hearing on this. So this is just the second reading on the CETA makeup, which has not changed since we last discussed it. Okay, nothing on that. We'll move to new business, which includes a resolution that I assume Crystal's coming up for. Resolution 4-2025, which is the on-call emergency callback policy. I appreciate Councilmember Beecham bringing up that we had let this sunset, and we needed to visit it again.
Good evening. So in your packets, that's what I was looking for. Copy. I know it was in there. I saw it earlier. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, thank you. Well, I had a copy as well, but thank you. So I did get some correspondence from Sharon regarding some of the concerns with regards to the 60 minutes. I want to just make sure that I'm understood what you were
Yeah,
looking for.
I appreciate that
So,
being included.
you know, yeah, so I did put that in there. I didn't know if you had any further questions regarding her written correspondence.
I'm good.
Did it answer all of your concerns, hopefully? Okay.
Do we have
So
a
I'm just
motion?
seeking,
Yep, it's a resolution, so we can act on this tonight. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
I make a motion to approve it, resolution as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. We usually do a roll call vote, I think, for resolutions. So Councilmember Beecham?
Yes.
Councilmember Huffer?
Yes.
Yes. Council Vice President Keel?
Yes.
Councilmember Worth?
Yes.
Okay.
well, excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, next up is Resolution 05-2025. This is the comp plan amendment. Councilmember Worth, is it you or?
They gave it to me, okay, yeah.
Sharon doing
Sure.
this?
This is, yeah, the map changes that the planning commission recently approved and sent it to us, and then we would need to have a public hearing on it. It might be helpful if we spend some time explaining it, not tonight, but, you know, maybe at our next meeting, or in lieu of the budget work session or something like that, if you need it, if you think this is pretty straightforward.
So we don't need a public hearing on this?
Yeah, the council has to have a public
Okay.
hearing,
Yeah,
yes.
and I prefer not to do it the same night as public hearing, because that's not really fair to the
No.
public. You know, we should do it before, a meeting before the public hearing.
Well,
or
we
something.
wouldn't, you'll have a meeting on April 17th.
17.
That'll be a second reading, because that's too early for us to schedule a
Public
public
hearing.
hearing. So it'll probably be the first meeting in May that we would have a public hearing.
Okay,
So let's discuss it at the 17th, more in depth.
yeah, if you,
Do you want our planner to come and give a
yeah, a 30-minute,
Kind of an overview.
update?
It's
30?
it's 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Sorry.
I'm with you.
I'm with
30
you.
minutes, wild.
Well, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of detail that's kind of brushed over.
We think the planner, or we
Yeah.
think the planning commission chair?
I brought it up last night, and they were kind of, they couldn't really decide. I guess it's in our hands on who could do it.
I think the planning commission chair makes sense to me. That's who we select.
Okay.
Okay. All right, see if she's available
I'd be happy to hear.
the next meeting.
Okay, I'll let her.
Anything else on this right now? Okay, next up is a first reading of ordinance 04-2025. This is for a text amendment for a monument signage in the business park for the proposed development. I don't want to call it a strip mall, but you know what I mean. The development that the billboards are out there for them to
Yeah.
have a little bit larger monument sign. Sharon, is there anything else you would say on first reading on this?
No, I mean, and it hasn't gone through any review yet. It's just to be referred to the planning commission. So this is language proposed by the applicant. It has not, I have
Right.
not
Yeah.
made changes to it yet. I have not prepared it. And the planning commission hasn't seen it yet, so.
So what we need to do right now is just refer it to the planning
Yep,
commission?
introduce it and refer it to them.
Okay, do we have a motion to refer ordinance 04-2025 to the planning commission?
So
No,
moved.
yeah, we talked about maybe, did we get request from, to amend the electronic sign ordinance? Maybe if we're tackling signs, we could try to do that at the same time, or
I see
maybe-
them as two wholly separate issues.
Okay.
So this is a super specific text amendment for a subject property
It's-
versus,
But it's in signs, right? I mean,
The sign ordinance
Different
revisions
types of
will be
signs.
very tedious.
yeah.
Yeah.
We probably shouldn't let this one situation bog it down, would be my thought.
all right, well, okay. Yeah, and they did bring it up, what,
I think
from
that-
preliminary view, that if you look at our code, it's like that, it would have been a stupid way of doing a sign for a shopping center. So that's why
Right, yeah.
It kind of needs to do it. So.
Councilmember Worth is talking about the proposed text amendment for the high school, not for the larger work that needs to be done. I worry about running those two things, like, I think they're two very separate issues on two opposite ends of town, an electronic sign versus not. I don't think they need to wait for each other.
Okay, because the planning commission suggested that as well, so I just thought
Well,
okay. If they're gonna be,
they can certainly.
they don't like dealing with signs anyway, and,
Right.
build their agenda in the way that makes sense.
Yes.
We have a motion to refer this to the planning commission. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second. Okay.
All those any
I have a
discussion?
question, I just have a question. So to go to the planning commission, then just tell me the process as far as the next steps from the planning
So
commission.
you'll get a recommendation from the planning commission. You'll have a public hearing here, and then you'll act on the ordinance.
Okay, so it'll come from planning coming back to us.
Yeah, and we
Once
can
revised.
accept or reject there.
Okay, very good. All right, just let me know. Thank you.
It's not a binary thing when it comes back, accept or reject, right?
No.
If we modify it, then he goes.
If it's
cycles
substantial,
back.
it would go back.
If it's a material change, it would cycle back through. Got it.
Right, but they're just to provide us advice. It's not the planning commission doesn't decide. We decide here in this.
Right, no, because I have comments, but I'll wait.
Yeah, I think we should let the planning commission do what they're gonna do with it first, and then,
Very good.
Does anybody have any comments on what this thing says already, so that, that, I mean, I really didn't. It seemed to be a sensible approach to, how do you sign for a shopping center has multiple,
Right.
sort of like the Food Line Shopping Center has a monument there. Okay, it would kind of make sense to have something similar at
Yeah,
at this location.
Again, I don't know if I should comment now, because when it comes back, but
Yeah, well-
one, I think the signage is pretty large in here, because I was looking at the prior signage as far as what's in the code now, and it's much larger. I think it's pretty large, this, compared to where it is, and then in comparison to other signage that's in town. So I think we just have to be cognizant of this sign and how it would affect the town over time as you change out, call it your shopping center signage or commercial signage. So I think there's some thought to be done in this. Right now, it hits me as being large. And then also, as far as off-premises signs, I don't know what the intent was of that. So I'm sure the planning commission will look at this as well. But those are two things that just, as I just, reviewed it, kind of stood out to me as far as just what was intent on that. And the other ones were just Centreville spelled wrong on the front page. But that would get picked up later.
Yeah, sure, we'll-
Yeah,
yeah,
because
sure, we'll
that's,
figure that out.
incorrect. There's like 3 spelling errors there.
Yeah, I think the off-site signs, you want to limit to the business park property, you know, because there'll be some, I'm trying to think what the food line sign says. For example, the auto park, you know, it's not really
Right.
part of the shopping center, but it's in the
It's in
business
that
park,
bus-
right?
in the
And if other
business
things are
park.
built in the business park that aren't associated with this shopping center, you know, should there be a monument sign,
I don't,
include that,
You
you know?
can't have off-site signs, so that's probably why.
They have to say it this way.
they're-
so our current monument sign would allow 6 feet, and this is asking for 10. I don't find that.
It's the square footage is much larger. And I
Yeah.
can't remember
Maybe
now
it
what's
just
in the
has to be the
code.
same.
I knew it earlier, but I can't remember, but the square is much larger. So those
So-
those are just initial comments, and we'll have more discussion
Yeah.
later.
I have to see if it's larger than the food line shopping center sign or
Yeah.
I can tell you, that's
It
probably,
is.
Right, it is, okay.
Oh,
yeah, probably 12 feet tall.
Yeah, well, it's good the planning commission would know that ahead of time, so they don't like,
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
oh, yes, fine. They'll probably notice it
Yeah.
too,
Yeah,
so.
so, yeah.
Okay,
I'll just save it for later.
so
The
we
specific call out, I'm sorry, the specific call out of square footage, I know that's caused us a lot of grief on convenience store. So we may want to pay attention to the 10,000 feet to see if that makes sense, or if there's a different way to address that matter.
Yeah, because.
I'm just asking y'all to think about that
There's height things
specifically.
too, height and, you know, width and
Yeah.
square feet, that kind of
We have a motion and a second to refer to the planning commission. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of referring this to the planning commission?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next up, we have a proclamation for Arbor Day. What do we need? To say yes or no, we like Arbor Day?
No, I think it's just to approve, you can approve the
Just to
proclamation.
approve the proclamation.
Okay.
Motion to approve the proclamation for Arbor Day.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed to Arbor Day? Okay. Next up, we have Celebrate Trails Day. This is your moment, should you have harsh feelings about trails.
I'll make a motion to approve the Town of Centerville proclamation for Celebrate Trails Day.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Not calling for abstentions?
Oh, anyone
kidding.
abstaining?
No.
You can't decide? You don't have enough information
enough
about if
information.
you like trails or not? We can go for a walk to get you the information you need. So, next up is school-related traffic and busing concerns. And Chief, I would super appreciate if you would come up for this discussion. So, at our last public meeting, we talked a little bit about school bus traffic violations, anecdotal, and also that the chief mentioned that an officer had done some enforcement against a bus blatantly running a stop sign. We also talked about increased enforcement against like DOT tagged trucks that are coming through town. Following all that, I was loading my children into their car seats. A bus went flying down Green Street, way in excess of the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, and then ran the stop sign. So my husband started recording the intersection because it was school drop time at Kennard, where multiple buses ran the stop sign, including one that came to me perilously close to hitting a child on a bike in the crosswalk. And I sent those videos. Well, first I called John Murdoch at the Board of Ed, who's in charge of busing. He agreed that if buses are running stop signs or otherwise speeding, that they need to do something about it. He asked for the videos. I sent the videos. I asked for a meeting with him, for me, Carolyn, any other council that wanted to join, and then a representative of the Centreville Police. So we could talk about all of the challenges that are present, particularly at Centreville Elementary and Kennard, related to pickup and drop off, where you have a lot of children walking at the same time that you have buses running stop signs and speeding, parents blocking painted curbs, just a lot going on at one time that creates an unsafe situation, particularly for children walking. So, the interest of full transparency with the public, we asked for this meeting with the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed said, sure, we can have a transportation meeting. They then added other staff at the Board of Ed to the meeting, including a former employee of the town. For various reasons, I suggested that it might be better to meet without our former employee, for which there's a somewhat fraught relationship between town staff and this person, and received, I was debating tonight reading the email I received from the superintendent of schools, just because quite frankly, it's unhinged. But I don't know the real benefit to that. Essentially, she or someone else from the Board of Ed went and stood on the street where I live and filmed the intersection to film private citizens in their vehicles not doing a 3-count stop at the stop sign. And the email basically said, you should send this to the police, and these private citizens are what they should be focusing on. Called the traffic safety challenges related to school buses my perceived challenges, although they're not perceived. If anyone wants to see a video of a bus almost mowing over a child on a bike, I'm happy to send that to you. So I think we have a real traffic safety problem with the buses. I think we have a real problem with the relationship between the town and the staff at the Board of Ed. I spoke at length to the chair of the school board who expressed regret for the whole situation. Just really stunned by the response from the staff and the unwillingness to work. So I think she's willing to work with us. I think what we need to get our arms around are what are the things that we can do to help alleviate some of the challenges. I know that we can't send officers out to every intersection where there's a school. There's what, 5 public schools in town limits. We can't send officers out to every intersection at a school at pickup and drop off time. We simply don't have the man hours for that. If there are things we can do, I think we need to offer solutions. There's going to be a change in staff at the school board this summer. I'm incredibly hopeful for an improved relationship between the town and the Board of Ed. I think the elected school board members are more than willing to work with us on what good looks like. The chair of the school board said to me, if it's a posted speed limit or a posted stop sign, I need them to obey that. Like, people don't get to have personal opinions about the posted speeds and stop signs in town. And so I think, I don't love the idea of saying, let's ramp up enforcement against buses. I would imagine that would be scary if you're a kid and your bus gets pulled over or whatever. Like, I'm not. But I do think we need to figure out what we as a town are able to do to help alleviate the challenges. And then what do we need specifically actionable from the county? Because I don't want us to wait for a kid to get hurt before we decide to do everything that we have the power to do. And when I think about living where I live and why I chose to live there, and that it's walking distance from the moment my kids are in 3rd grade until they graduate high school, there is no way in hell I would let a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grader walk from my house to Kennard, which is such a short distance. There's no way I would do that right now, given the way school buses drive back there. And that's insane to think about, that it feels like an unsafe place for children to walk to school in this little town. And so I want us to be thinking, I want Centreville Police to be thinking about what can we do. I don't think we have an adequate partner in county school system staff. I hate to say that, but I think the response to a video of a bus almost hitting a child being anything other than, that's horrifying and we will address it, is alarming to me. And that the answer is private citizens run stop signs too, basically. I don't know what that, private citizens don't have 30 of someone else's kids in their vehicle. So I don't know what the answer is.
Or are they in a 5 or 6 ton vehicle?
Right.
Right.
Nor are they a professional driver necessarily. And so I'd like us to think about, I know that you do everything you can to keep the residents of this town safe. And so I'd like us to think about what we can do and what we can offer to the situation, understanding that the other side of the table isn't really interested in problem solving with us. I think the elected school board is. I want to be super clear about that. I think the elected school board is more than willing to do whatever it takes to keep kids safe. I'm not sure that the same can be said about staff, just based on the overblown response I received.
Right.
Anything else on traffic safety and children and buses and what we might be able to direct our town police to do? Because I'm at a little bit of a loss.
Well, the thing is, it's really just for a 15-minute period.
Twice a day.
Twice a day, really, at each school. And it's like, even if you just sat there, I think they would pay more attention to what they're doing. I tried to observe the situation at Kennard and Centreville, and once they found out I was videotaping, every bus stopped 3 seconds, at the stop bar. And it's like, up to that, this morning when I did it, the first few kind of slipped through the intersection at Green and Little Kidwell, right. But all of them seem to want to, like, get up, like there's a site issue or something down Little Kidwell towards the
I know,
Y.
but there's not.
And it can't be, because, I mean, it was for me, because I'm in a vehicle, and there's a fence there, but it's like, they're way above that. It's like, they don't need to scoot past the stop bar and then look and then just,
And it's actually worse, and I haven't had a chance to get out there and video this, but it's actually worse at Little Kidwell and Providence Lane, Providence Court, the straight through on Little Kidwell. They don't even slow down.
Yeah.
And the day that it was filmed, it seems like they got a
Oh,
heads up.
the video
A
from the
heads
school
up
board?
that
Yeah,
every
that.
school bus stopped at that stop. You
Yes.
go out there on an average day before anybody was talking about it, you could see them go through it every day. But the day that it was filmed, somebody from the Board of Ed filmed them, like they almost had a heads up that I'm gonna film you, so make sure you stop at this stop
Right, so it
sign.
doesn't take much to stop them. All you gotta do, the
Yeah.
first
And
two
there's a
buses,
bus-
they spread the word or something, and, that's it.
There's a bus
So-
driver shortage and
Right.
all sorts of challenges to the board, and I don't sit here at all jealous of the people on the board and the tough decisions that they have to make.
Yeah.
And I know busing is such a small part of like the total scope of the school system.
Yeah.
Though there is a person totally and only in charge of transportation that could address this, and I think would if given the opportunity. But I would love, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if we could think about what we can do,
Absolutely.
what we can offer in solutions, I'd hate to see the solution be to write tickets, but as I shared with everyone I've talked to at the board, that's like the only tool I really see in our toolbox is to ticket it every time until behavior changes.
Did we get the new speed trailers?
Yes, we have
They
two
operate-
speed trailers, and we
are they
have the 4
operational?
speed signs. The 4 speed signs, I don't think we were gonna put in that area, but the speed trailers can be
Yeah.
deployed in that area. Ultimately, I appreciate you bringing up this issue tonight. We did have a meeting with the school board members, along with the oversight committee for the county and the private entities that drive for the school buses.
That was previous to this.
Previous to this, yes. And to be perfectly clear, we're not saying all school buses are violators here. It is a small amount like anybody else, like the citizens are. In trying to come up with a solution to this issue, it was very tough. Because ultimately what we have found, and I think I discussed this in other council meetings, is we have just exponentially grown in this town versus what we've had before. The roadways, however, really have not. The real estate is the same, but the population is growing. We've had challenges with COVID, as we've stated multiple times, with stay-home parents, remote working, things of that nature, where people want to now take their kids to school versus putting them on school buses. So you have vehicular traffic, private traffic coming into play, all trying to gather in the same location around the school. So that is a big issue, and one of the things we've been trying to thwart, because now we have a conglomerate and large amount of people trying to gather at an intersection near Kennard Elementary, and it's just causing traffic congestion. At the intersections, it's causing some site issues. I spoke with the bus driver specifically about their concerns. One of the things that he said was possibly being able to observe traffic around that area because it is so congested. However, the one incident that we were engaged in where the bus driver got cited, clearly and blatantly run a stop sign that he indicated he didn't know was there, but he's been driving for multiple years in that same location. So the bus drivers that I met with that were the oversight for the county were very receptive to trying to come up with a solution. I'm pretty sure they spread the word to everybody in the county. Look, town is trying to cut back on these situations. We need to be more diligent. We haven't received many complaints recently since that meeting. I have deployed our officers out there on several occasions to try to educate first as best they can, depending on the type of violation that they observe and how egregious it is. If it is a blatant disregard for public safety and the law, cite them accordingly. If it's something where just a mere interaction verbally will suffice, then great, such is life. The issue is, and as Council President has stated on multiple occasions, is it's about adjusting that behavior. We go out there for a week or two, we enforce the law, we get a couple tickets, yeah, they don't want to get tickets, things will be okay for a week or two. Then we leave, they come right back and do the same thing. So it's an ebb and flow with this. As Council President also stated, citations unfortunately seem to be the only possible solution to this. Just talking to them isn't cutting it. And as far as a place to put the amount of traffic that is congested in this area, there is nowhere to put them. So it's like, the school board offered no suggestion to how to solve the problem. I will say, the school bus people that I met with had offered a solution. They used to run a different route through town.
Right, you mentioned that at our last meeting.
Exactly. And they all said that that was less prohibitive to them as they're traversing through town. and they thought that it would be a good suggestion to go back to that pattern. It would cause them less issues. And I think ultimately there might have been a time adjustment as to when they ran these patterns through town. And they said absolutely, well, not altogether, they said they did not have an issue like they have today. Now, that was presented to one of the school board members that was there, along with Mr. Murdoch, who was present. And the school representative basically said, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Didn't seem to want to consider it, even though all the school bus operators that were there seemed to think it would work. So.
We'll have a leadership change at the school board this summer. That's been publicly announced.
Yeah.
I think we have to use the tools available to us in the meantime and hope that there's a more willing partner at the other side of the table later this year. I'm disappointed. I mean, just genuinely disappointed in the reaction from the public school system. We want to be a good partner to the county and to the county schools. I just also want kids to be safe.
Absolutely.
And I think everyone has to approach a discussion about something like this with safety of children as the first thing. And if people can't do that, then there's no sense in us continuing to talk to them, and we just have to do what we can do to keep people safe.
Right.
And just to add, I've spoken with our DPW about possibility of seeing if we can expand roadways or adjust parking or adjusting curb paintings or anything to do that we could help on behalf of the town to mitigate these situations. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of solutions available to us.
Yeah, and it's a twofold issue, right? Because so it's the congestion issues with the parent traffic, and then it's just the way school buses are driving throughout town. And that's not just at Green Little Kidwell, that's at Chesterfield and Broadway. That's at other intersections in town where they're just not stopping, which isn't acceptable. And I can't imagine why they feel like they should run every stop sign in town, but they do.
It's like they're in a big hurry to get from point A to point B, and they shouldn't be. And as Councilmember Beecham had mentioned, you've got such a large vehicle traversing through our small areas of town, and trying to fit them through this congested area is rather difficult. I mean, I can't imagine being a bus driver today trying to traverse through here with the congestion we have. But you know, they are on board with trying to do what they can to fix the issue. I will say they're very receptive to, you know, meeting with us. I think that would be a good idea at some point, meet with the bus driver union or whatever.
When I saw, far be it from me to quote something I saw in Residents of Centreville, but that's just life, I guess. I saw on Residents of Centreville that parents have organized some sort of meeting about bus issues on the 15th of April. Issues that are happening on buses, I think, are a large part of this.
I think I did see that, yes. It's
Yeah,
at the
library. I'm returning to town that day. I may try to just be there and hear in case some of the challenges are related to the traffic. Also, and like things in town, I don't certainly want to get involved in what's happening on a bus, but what's happening as the buses move throughout town, we should care about. So it's not just us. Like, this is not just a handful of people observing this. And also, after I took those videos and sent them to the council and to the chief of police, I did send them to my neighborhood mom group, which is not altogether different from Residents of Centreville, quite frankly, in the level of drama, but I did send it to my neighborhood mom group. And several of them said, yeah, we've called the board. We've called the board when we've seen them run the stop sign at Providence and Little Kidwell. We've called the board about specific bus drivers, and that when they've complained about bus drivers running the stop sign, instead of someone from the board calling them back, the board has the bus driver call them back. Which, like, bizarre. So I just think we have to do what we can do. And that's, you know, ticketing the egregious things and educating on the things we can educate on, and hoping that we have a more willing partner at the other side of the table in July.
Agreed.
So thanks, Chief. Anything else on this issue? Okay. Reports of boards and commissions, MML.
So session's almost over, so that's just sort of a foot race now to get the sign and die. This week, I'm sure y'all received as well. I received the memo from MML about budgeting tools. I passed on the information to our finance officer. She had not seen that, so she was grateful to see that. That's all I have.
Okay. Council of Governments, you forgot your notes.
Yeah, again.
Okay, economic development, we will have the public hearing next meeting on the reorganization of CETA, and we look forward to getting applications for that? Park Advisory Board.
Yeah, just a couple things. So Frank Miney, for the last couple of years, have been cutting and spraying. I think a third year is required in order to try to get it under control near the park and surrounding. So another thing is there's a planter box that's on Front Street as you go towards the wharf and there's overgrown, and what they're going to be doing is just we're going to and it's actually like a retention, so water comes off the pavilion that's there and it comes into the box. It's a little more than just a plant box. It's really almost like a bioretention box to clean the water that's coming off. So there's a little more than just a planter box. So the advisory committee is going to redo the box, and then actually the master gardeners are going to get involved to put plant material in there, mulch, and a member of the advisory board. So that's good, and I think it'll be a really good thing once it's done, and it'll show really like environmental aspects associated with what we're doing there as a town, and it'll be along the trail. So we may want to do some PR relating to that when we do it, and we can talk more about that. And I think there was a letter that actually, Caroline, you had gotten on that. So that's great. So again, just another improvement relating to the path. I think that, and then on the band shell and getting the wharf, I think that'll be coming soon as it relates to engineering plans from Macron, and then we can get the bids out associated with that to get that done this year, because that'll be very valuable to the community. So those are the main things.
Awesome. Planning Commission.
I had a work session yesterday, and the first thing they dealt with is that the county sent a letter with suggestions on the T&D changes that would be appropriate for the property that they intend to acquire from Providence Farm. They wanted to make sure that office space would be allowed, the sheriff's office, animal services, health department, and outdoor recreation would be allowed. They also wanted warehouses, but the planning commission thought that wouldn't be appropriate for a walkable community to have warehouses. So, but also, it also brought up, like, what happens if the county does this and they have all these buildings, we already know of 2 buildings that they're gonna give up, the jail and the Board of Ed, right, is like they start like moving everything
Well, this
to
is
that end
supposed
of
to be the
town.
health department, and I don't
Yeah, the
remember
health
what
department,
else.
the sheriff's office, all that, and it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, do they really have when are they gonna do all this? I mean,
Is there a master plan?
yeah, do you have a master plan for this? What are they gonna do with the abandoned buildings? It's like, they can't just keep giving them to us or whatever, yeah. We don't want all that. Turn them into housing, they gotta do
Yeah.
something with their abandoned buildings. They can't just like,
Let them
just move everything to the
Right, and
the
let them
burbs there. And,
deteriorate.
yeah, so,
Back on tax maps.
and so, Kenmore tax roll, exactly, right. And okay, then they continue with the T&D code changes, and they might consider, at the moment, the draft says, no commercial for T&Ds that are less than 200 acres, but they might consider something called neighborhood commercial, which would be a small scale commercial developments within the smaller properties. So, but they are going to, they're considering seriously a Saturday work session on May 3rd. So,
Okay.
it sounds like it'll be all day, not just
Exciting.
At the wharf, it's probably.
at the
gonna be
wharf building, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And that is all.
All right. Reports to department heads, town manager.
Just real quick, I had a meeting earlier this week with Clifton Stagnaro, our code enforcement officer. So he has been out talking, spoke to a couple businesses regarding signs. He is familiarizing himself with the sign code and is going to be more proactive going into the different businesses to educate them on our code and what can and cannot be done, and then we'll, go from there. He is also going to start focusing on the plastic bag ban and then the issues that we've had with businesses with that. So those are on his radar right now. They have been, but he wasn't that familiar with them. So I was going to talk about the Wharf Park, but Councilmember Huffer spoke about that. And then real quick, because I know that all our staff, they are so excited, but this month, April, we're having a 2-day training for staff on public speaking.
Oh,
Because
awesome.
I feel myself I need it, and whoever else, they're so excited about it.
That they are, yeah. I can take
That's really great.
Especially excited.
But yeah, so just to let you know, I think it's the 23rd and 24th, 2 days of training, so it'll be fun.
It's just like for interacting with the public, one-on-one, or just like,
Everything,
All of it.
everything,
Okay, good.
yeah. But we'll be, the first day, we'll go through and we will be recorded. And then I think the next day is when we pick apart those recordings about how well we do. If anybody wants to come, you're welcome to come.
yeah, they did that at MML one time. It's
Did
like,
they?
I'm not going up there.
I think Council Vice President Keel wants to come.
Yeah, that's right.
You can come, absolutely. Anybody
Put
wants to
on
come.
that.
Yeah. So, that's all I have right now.
Okay. Chief of Police.
I don't have anything this evening, but for the next meeting, I definitely will, unless the council have any questions for me tonight.
Yes, remind me where the speed signs are going.
Good question. I was trying to think about that earlier. I was trying to explain
Hope
to one of
Road,
my
right?
officers. I think we decided we were gonna put one on Hope Road, on 4H Park Road, and I believe on Chesterfield Avenue coming into town. And I was trying to remember what.
So basically just coming into town, the
Coming
spots
into
coming
town,
into town.
yes.
So maybe Roosburg Road is the other
Did it
one.
record your speed?
It records that, I guess. It did.
I did high speed on my road, I'm just saying.
I'll have to research the position of the fourth sign. I wasn't sure if we were gonna do Roosburg Road because we have so many speed signs
Right.
on that road already. We have electronic and static
Yeah.
signs as well. So,
I don't know.
certainly just make that discussion at a later date as to where we'd like to place that sign.
Yeah, cool. Maybe out where we have the speed camera by docks,
We do.
the other place coming into town though. That might be a good spot.
Oh, coming in
On
off the
what?
bridge.
Yeah, coming in off the bridge into
By
town.
Front
Docks.
Street.
Yeah, by Front Street.
On my
That's,
Front Street.
that's where we're gonna have one off Chesterfield down.
Yeah.
Oh, that end of
Oh, that is,
Chesterfield, okay.
okay.
I was picturing the end of Chesterfield closer to Broadway in town.
Oh, no, as they're coming from outside.
I'm sure you'll figure it out. We're gonna do this by committee.
Vote on it.
Nothing else for you, chief. Does anyone have anything for the chief?
Yeah.
Okay, town attorney.
I have nothing.
Okay. Human resources manager. I think we're good. Town clerk. Main Street manager. Here she comes.
All right, hello. Over the past few weeks, maybe less, I don't know, it just seems like a few weeks. Been working on a refresh for our Maryland Makers event, including a new name. We approved a new date the last time we got together. The name that we've landed on is Maryland Crafted. We feel as though it better encompasses everything that's there. We're looking at kind of sticking with the Maryland flag and going ahead and changing the name. Mr. Beecham, thank you for your suggestions regarding the expanded focus of it. I'm wordsmithing a bit, but here's just kind of a passage that kind of is the way that we would like to message. Town of Centreville and the Maryland Wineries Association will host the 8th Maryland Makers event in historic downtown Centreville with a new name, new date, and more ways to explore Maryland's rich craft heritage. So while there may be options for us to say, you may have enjoyed this event as a different name, Drink Maryland, but the new expanded format features a VIP experience at Bull and Goat Brewery and other additional attractions. So again, we're saying new name, new expanded opportunities to celebrate Maryland Makers.
Awesome. I like it.
Yeah, that's good. And Sorry, and the date again, just for the public, just so we can.
June 7th. So it is a week before we typically would have it. And I think we can still promote it as, you know, this is great early Father's Day gift. Bring your dad. You can bring your mom, too. So this week, I brought the volunteers together to update them on what has progressed so far, get them excited. I'm sure United Bank is all in for also getting this out to their employees to help be part of our volunteer corps, which is great. I've been hearing a lot from businesses who are like, where's the paperwork for the sponsorship? So like, oh, in a second, I'll get back to you after Thursday. So that's all moving along well. Had a marketing meeting this morning to kind of look at how we can expand our markets using the data that we have, where our folks come from, and to enhance that. Next week, I'll be going to a 3-day Main Street conference in Philadelphia. 2,000 people. Woo. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be, it's always, you get a lot of good information. We do some things as the Maryland Main Street managers, so we do get a chance to kind of learn from each other as well. Also, in the next month, I am going to clean up a business directory and launch an online business directory. So, yeah, we haven't had that for a bit, and just trying to clean that up, get categories in there, and that's kind of part of the Civic Plus website. So I have a subdirectory that's basically a Main Street site, and then this is another one. And then I'll be going into a section of doing business to make it more user-friendly, to let people know how to, you know, where they should start. The Department of Taxation and Assessments has a doing business in Maryland page, but it's kind of hard to navigate. So, you know, people don't know that they need to register a trade name with the state first. And then if you're a sole proprietor, you need to register that. And then we in the town have them come in to do a business occupancy, and sometimes, like, you know, their heads are spinning. You know, they're starting a new business and not sure what's needed and all of that. So I think we can do a better job of putting it in layman's terms so that they have a better map in doing that.
Awesome.
And that's all I have.
Can I make a couple suggestions?
Sure.
So with your business directory, I was wondering if, not immediately, but at some point, we would have a specialized Centreville update that was based and targeted for those businesses. Now that we have the directory of them, contact information, over time, CETA may want to get involved in this as developing a Centreville business update or something. And also thinking about the dawn of CETA 2.0, maybe a directory or a roster of potential sites, vacant buildings. Is that
Yeah, I think we definitely need that.
Inventory of that.
And that would be a living document.
Yes.
That's it, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have one question, just for the public again, just because I've gotten questions relating to North Commerce as far as the corner store, as far as construction. Again, for the public, can you just inform them as far as what's happening on the corner?
So right now, we are still awaiting their signed, sealed architectural drawings. So I emailed and called Guadalupe earlier this week, and she is still waiting on them. And I said, is there a date where we can anticipate so that we can be ready to look at those? Because my thing is, a lot of times plans come in and then we have to send them back for something, and I don't want too much time to have gone past.
Are we still okay on the Restore grant timeline, or?
Yes, so the grant says that the first floor commercial, the restaurant in this case, needs to be open by November.
Of this year?
Yes. Now, their build-out,
Yeah, that's a really short fuse.
the build-out that they've given us for the restaurant is 4 months. So then the balance of that would be these 6 apartments.
They're just waiting for their architectural drawings, though,
Correct.
which could take a long time.
Correct. And I'm also working with them to bring them in and do a meeting with economic development for the county, because there are funds available through their incentive fund, which would be another grant, and also some more reasonable revolving loan funds.
Yeah.
So trying to get that meeting together. In fact, I was going to ask our town manager if I could use her office on Monday.
Well, it depends on what time.
Yeah, I know. So I'll be back to you, but yes, so trying to work with them and get, all their ducks in order.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right?
Well, thank you. Sure. Appreciate all your work, and I love the rename and the new, I think it's gonna be really cool.
Right. Thank you.
All right, we will now go to our second citizens forum. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council? Okay. Council roundtable, Council Vice President Keel,
Nothing.
Councilmember Beecham,
I'll abstain. I mean, nothing.
Councilmember Worth,
Nothing from me.
Councilmember Huffer.
Nothing further.
Okay, just one thing from me. We will have a special town council meeting tomorrow at 4 PM at the Wharf to discuss an emergency ordinance related to administrative search warrants. Does that cover?
Yep.
So open to the public, 4 PM tomorrow, first floor of the Town Wharf Building.
We will post that on the website
Yeah, we will
tomorrow.
get it on the website, and we will have the ordinance by then to review. Anything else before we adjourn? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.